Patrick Snow is an international best-selling author, professional keynote speaker, publishing and book marketing coach, and internet entrepreneur. He first discovered his gift for speaking at the age of 17 while giving pre-game speeches to his high school football team. Now, since then, Patrick has electrified more than 1,500 audiences worldwide to create their individual and organizational destinies. Patrick's destiny message has been recognized on TV, in magazines, and in major newspapers such as the New York Times. His book and family photo was also featured as a cover story in the December 5th, 2002 issue of USA Today. Patrick is the author of the international bestseller, Creating Your Own Destiny, How to Get Exactly What You Want Out of Life and Work, which has sold more than 150,000 copies since its first printing in 2001. This book and his second book, The Affluent Entrepreneur, have both been picked up by John Wiley & Sons and have been republished under the Wiley imprint. He is also a contributing author to numerous other books, including Chicken Soup for the Soul, Life Lessons for Mastering the Law of Attraction. Patrick's mission is to help others overcome their fears by turning their career distress into personal success. Originally from Michigan, Patrick graduated from the University of Montana in 1991 and has lived in the Seattle area ever since. He and his wife Cheryl, who is a homicide prosecuting attorney, currently reside in Bainbridge Island, Washington, along with their two sons, Sam and Jacob. So please join me in giving a warm aloha to the Dean of Destiny, Patrick Snow.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Go Grizz is right. I got to tell you, I've heard a lot of introductions in my time, and I think that very well could be the best introduction that I've ever written. So thank you, Michael, for delivering such a good job with that. But I just want you guys to know, at 41 years old, I can learn more from you than you can learn from me. So my goal today is not to teach you a darn thing. Is that fair enough? There's going to be no teaching going on. My goal today is to humor you, to entertain you, to inspire you, to challenge you, and to remind you of all those things that you've already learned. Is that fair enough? Can we do that? That's my goal, is to remind you of what you've already learned and then challenge you to take action on that. So before we begin, I want to thank Joni for her visionary, for her leadership in putting this together. Joni and I met in the last year or so, and she had me read her book, $1 Million Attitude. And I got to tell you, I've read a lot of books on personal growth and development in my life, and never have I read a book that has been so fascinating in terms of learning how people are able to achieve their dreams and goals and visions. And if you want to learn how to achieve your goals, your dreams, and your visions, you need to read this book. Pick up a copy, $1 Million Attitude, Joni Reddick. This is a fantastic book. And also, I got to tell you, too, what a great opportunity to be a part of an organization like FAMES. I'm going to read you this, and I'm sure you've heard this before. But think about this. How many other organizations are you a part of where you can be a contributing member to the Filipino-American Multi-Ethnic Society, which is a local nonprofit created and designed to mentor, educate, and motivate and assist both in becoming successful and profitable in their endeavors. It's also aimed to promote and develop strong leadership in the community. So let's give Joni a big hand as the founder of this fantastic organization. You know, it's been said that if you want what others have, you must be willing to do what others have done. And it's my friend and my mentor, Brian Tracy, that says simply just emulate the successes and avoid the failures of everybody else. And that's what the beautiful thing about this organization is you get a chance to network, find out what's working, find out what's not working, swap business cards. And so before you go, I hope that all of you can leave with 20 new friends, 20 new business cards, and we can go from there. So with that being the case, who wants to hear about the USA Today cover story? Anybody want to hear how it ended up on the front cover of USA Today? Anyone? Anyone? Is Bueller in the audience? Anyone? Well, as I share this story, I want to ask you, are there people in your lives that are your naysayers, that are quick to critique you, that tell you that you don't have what it takes, right? Does anybody have people like that in your lives that are your naysayers? Does anybody have in-laws? In-laws, right? Well, I've got one of those in-laws. His name is Richard Monahan, and for years and years he's been saying, Patrick, who are you to write a book? And I said, I took college English, right? When are you going to get a real job? What makes you think that you can take care of my 2 grandchildren? How are you going to provide? What makes you think you can retire at 36 and pursue this business, right? When are you going to go back and get a real job? Do you have naysayers like that in your lives? Well, if you look at the photo, you're going to see that my wife's head's in the very, very background. You can barely see her head. She's put over 100 murders in prison. And here's what she said. When the photographer showed up at her house, she said, under no circumstances are you putting my photo on the front cover of USA Today. I said, honey, don't worry about it. They don't read newspapers in prison. They watch cable TV, for goodness sakes, right? But if you look close enough, you can see your heads in the background. But notice that there's 3 of us right there prominently displayed along with our dog. There's myself, my 2 sons, Sam and Jacob. So the morning of December 5th, 2002, this came out front cover, USA Today. And for years and years, again, my father-in-law's been my person that's critiqued me more than anybody else, right? Who are you? When are you? How are you? And it's like, you need to just mind your own business, right? We have some in-laws kind of like that, right? And so, and how many of you are grandchildren parents? Raise your hand if you're a grandparent. Raise your hand if you're a grandparent. Isn't it about the grandchildren? It's no longer about the sons and the daughters, right? So when he calls up now, it's never, hey, Patrick, how's the book tour doing? How are the speaking engagements going? It's all, how are Sam and Jacob doing in school? How are they doing in sports? How are they doing their their girlfriends? You know, how are they doing in that, that type of thing? That was a slip-up. You guys can laugh. That was a slip-up. But it's never, hey, Patrick, how are you doing in your business, right? So this was no different. December 5th, 2002, about 5 in the morning, he calls me up and says, Patrick, you're not going to believe this. He says, you need to go out and get a copy of today's USA Today. He says, my 2 grandsons. My 2 grandsons are on the front cover of USA Today. And I'm like this, who's the big stiff, the big knucklehead sitting right in between? The point is this. Oftentimes in life, you never get any respect, right? So I want you to jot this down. How many of you own and operate your own business or are in sales? Raise your hand if you own or operate your own business or are in sales. So I want you to jot this down. This is SW to the 4th power. And that means sometimes your in-laws are going to like you. Sometimes they won't. So what? You have another in-law to deal with, right? Some people are going to buy from you. Some people won't. So what next? Someone else is waiting. Some people are going to like you. Some people aren't. So what next? Someone else is waiting. So having been in sales and marketing and being a business owner for years and years, I've developed that SW to the 4th power as my ultimate mantra. And I challenge you, if you want to create your own destiny, if you want to get all that you want out of life, you need to do the same thing. Some will, some won't. So what next? Someone else is waiting. In fact, it was my mentor and friend, Les Brown. Les Brown, anybody know Les Brown? Live your dreams, and it's not over until you win. Les Brown said this. He said, never, under any circumstances, let another person's opinion of you determine your reality. That is such a powerful statement. I want to read that back again. Never, under any circumstances, let another person's opinion of you determine your reality. So for years and years and years, I've been teaching this mantra to my 2 boys. And 4 years ago, my son was a freshman in high school. 5 years ago. And he comes home after having a great freshman season playing lacrosse at Bainbridge High School in Bainbridge, Washington, just west of Seattle. And he says, Dad, I want to play college lacrosse. I said, son, then we've got a problem. I said, have you looked at your grade point average recently, right? And how many of you have freshmen in high school that they just kind of screw around? They just don't pay attention to their academics. They think there's time. Well, he was one of those kids, right? After his freshman year, he had a 2.85 GPA, which is a B minus C plus, right? I said, son, if you want to play college lacrosse, I will support you and push you and do everything I can to help you out. But the reality of it is, there's not a whole lot of Division 1, 2, or 3 lacrosse schools on the West Coast. So you need to go to a private school back east if you want to play. And you're not going to get into any school back east with a 2.85 GPA. So he started studying harder than he had ever studied before. And he remembered that phrase, never let someone else's opinion of him determine his reality. And so for years and years, all the way through high school, he studied like he'd never studied before. His junior year, he had a setback. And his setback was he came home from school with a C minus on a math test. And I said, Sam, what are you thinking? A C minus? How are you going to play college lacrosse at a private school with a C minus on a math test? And you're never going to believe what he said. He says, Dad, don't worry about it. I've got it all figured out. Anybody have teenagers that says that to you? Mom, Dad, don't worry about it. I got it all figured out, right? So he looks at the C minus. He says, Dad, don't worry about it. That C minus, that's just one person's opinion of me. He said, I'm a much better math student than that. And so he graduated. There's my father-in-law with Sam when he was a newborn just several years ago, 18, 19 years ago. And here's Sam Snow today, sophomore, starting his fall season as a sophomore at Fairfield University, Fairfield, Connecticut, because he never let someone else's opinion of him determine his reality. In fact, the last time I was here speaking to the Hiree folks, I got on a plane, flew to Houston, Texas, watched Fairfield University beat University of Notre Dame fighting Irish. So if there's any Notre Dame fans in the room, it was an awesome day watching these guys beat Notre Dame, because I thought it's a darn shame traveling all the way to Houston, Texas, and we don't have a chance and you know what to win, and we ended up beating them 10-8, so that was a good day. But my point is this. I want you to memorize that phrase for a lifetime, and that is never let someone else's opinion of you determine your reality. I was in Tampa, Florida last weekend at a conference and heard one of the speakers say this. He said, your house may be in foreclosure, but you are not. Does that make sense? Your house may be in foreclosure, but you may not. Right? So the point of it is, another friend of mine, Dr. Benny Morris, he said this. He said that we have a choice, and our choice is with regards to the adversity that we face day in and day out. And we can let that adversity either defeat us or define us. So my challenge for all of you today, as we go through these adversities together, I challenge you not to let that adversity defeat you. I challenge you to let that adversity define you. So with that being the case, I want to ask you some questions as we begin today. Question number one, how many had a goal, a dream, a vision, something that you wanted to pursue, but because you did not know how you were going to achieve that goal, you let the lack of not knowing how stop you in your tracks? I'm guilty, right? We're taught as young kids we need to know how. Are you creating your own destiny or creating someone else's destiny? How many of you are parents? Any of us that are parents, we're being pulled and stretched in all directions? It's like, here's the washing machine, here's the dryer, that's how you use it. Here's the stove in the kitchen and whatever else you want food, you need to prepare it, right? That's not my goal, is to take care of everything for you. My goal is to help you become independent on your own, right? But us as parents, we're left oftentimes in our children's eyes trying to create their own destinies. So next you have that same goal, that same dream, that same vision. But how about you were fearful of the results, fearful of the process, that you let your fear stop in your tracks? I'm guilty of that as well. So last question is this. How many of you all thought that creating your own destiny was for those young 20 and 30-somethings, right? I tell my son, I still have a six-pack. You just can't see it anymore. It's still there, right?